Hey guys, Justin here from Game Time, and it's giving you guys a skills and industry tips to pump up the quality of your content creation. This week, it's a real painful one. Let's talk about all things... Just a sec, guys. Rendering. We hate it. It chews so much of our time up in the edit. But what is rendering? How does it help us? And what is the method behind the madness? I'm going to go into a deep dive of what it is and how we can use it effectively to help you guys save time and edit better. Let's jump in. Rendering is a method that your video software uses to create preview versions of your raw video files, so that it may play back vision and effects smoothly and uninterrupted when editing. It is important to know that what you see on your timeline isn't the video file itself, rather a pointer to them. This pointer information is tiny and helps keep your project files down in size. So, how do you know if your timeline needs rendering? In Premiere Pro, there are 3 colours that are represented here on the timeline that tell you the current status of a render. Green means go. This chunk of my video has already been rendered and is good to play back without a hitch. Yellow means that there hasn't been any preview renders created yet, but through processing power alone, may be able to play back the clips in question seamlessly on the timeline. Red requires urgent attention. Without a render, this part of our timeline will play back rather choppy, which will stunt the progression of our edit. Now that we know what they are and how they work, where do we go to render our timeline? In the sequence drop-down menu, there are several options at the top here that are related to rendering. Let's go through them one by one. Rendering effects in and out targets red portions of your timeline, particularly clips with effects and transitions. After you've applied effects to your edit, you can just hit enter to make Premiere render them out, rather than jump to the sequence menu all the time. Render in and out is my frequent go-to. You can mark a selection on your timeline using the I key for in and the O key for out on the keyboard. Render in and out will render everything yellow and red in the selection rather than the whole sequence. This is great for when you are concentrating on a particular part of your edit. Render selection will render clips marked in red on your timeline so long as they have been highlighted. Great for if you are testing different effects but only want to apply them to a particular clip. Render audio does just that. If your timeline is full of sound effects and music and is playing them back with interruptions, a quick audio render will do the trick. Delete render files will nuke the render preview files for the entire project, not the sequence, the project. Why would you do that, you ask? Older render files from previous versions of your software can cause more harm than good. If you are noticing playback problems and anomalies, you can delete them all and re-render your sequences. Delete render files in and out is the same thing, but only in your sequence and only between your in and out points. So, knowing that, when should you render your sequences? When playback gets too chunky. The more you populate your timeline, the more there is to render. It's really up to you how often you'd like to do it. Over time, you'll learn the limitations of your hardware. Upon exporting, your editing software does one final render check of your sequence, so it matters little if you do it before your export or during. And finally, the big why that every video editor asks. Why does rendering take so long? This can come down to a lot of reasons. How many effects are you using? What kind of codec is your video files? What frame rate? What resolution? The more variables that are stacked, the longer the render will take. Patience is your friend here. Rendering can take hours in some circumstances. Take a break from the computer, or leave it overnight if that works for you. Over in DaVinci Resolve, you can right-click the clips in question on your timeline. Turn the Render Cache Fusion output on, go to the playback menu, Render Cache, and set this to User. This will kick off an automated background render. You can see the progress of this on the timeline as it turns from red to blue, making it so much easier to play back your clips. For questions or additional information, drop us a line in the comments below. Don't forget to like this video and subscribe to Game Time Edits.